some like fan prediction posters that I thought we'd go over, kind of analyze what we think of them, if we think that it would be possible. So I'll pull up the first one, and what we've got here is, this is really well designed, by the way. Like, whoever's done this has put a lot of effort into it. So the first headliner on here, the first main headliner, is Billie Eilish.
We spoke about that. We said it's very possible. You know, she's definitely somebody that could headline a festival. And for Reading Leeds, I think she fits in perfectly with the key demographic that they're aiming at. So I think Billie Eilish, good shout.
Yeah, I could see her headlining. Playboy Carti underneath. I don't really know much about Carti now. I know that he's like really popular, but I don't know. Is he big enough to be second down? When we posted a clip on TikTok from the last podcast, and one of the comments was him to headline. So he must be really big, but I just have never really listened to him much.
Yeah, he's somebody that I've never really gotten into before. I know that he is somewhat, you know, a big artist, but like you're saying, headline worthy, I don't think he's quite there. But then underneath Playboy Carti, we'd have Slow Tie. Yeah. Which I can see, you know, I can see that being a thing. And with Skepta being on the other main stage, you know, Slow Tie and Skepta, they're quite...
Yeah, there's always got to be a UK rap headliner, or at least there has been for the last few years. And I think, obviously, they probably won't want to get Stormzy or Dave back that quickly. So I think Skepta's probably the only option that's like headline worthy. And I would also say it's a sensible choice in terms of, I think he'd only be headline worthy on the second main stage. I don't think he's big enough to like finish off a day yet.
No way.
Yeah, so I think Skepta's decent. Rex Orange and County is quite big as well. So I could see him being quite high up on the lineup.
And what I'd hope for as well when Skepta was playing is that Slow Tie would come on and do their song together.
That's good.
I'd like to see that.
I could see that for sure. And then just some of the standard people underneath. You got Everything, who I actually seen at Tramlines a few years ago, and they were great. You can tell that day is kind of tailored towards the UK rap we gets, and M Hun Show as well. Could certainly see them and Pendulum, who did a secret set this year, turning up for next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all of those. And then on the next day, you've got The Weeknd. I would say he's probably the biggest artist on this particular poster. I could see him doing it next year. He was meant to do a UK tour last year, I think, to pair with his new album, but it all got cancelled.
Right.
So that's not been rearranged. You've not seen a new announcement for a tour, so it'd make sense for him to do Reading and Leeds.
I could definitely see The Weeknd being in a position to headline as well. Like I know we were talking about Skepta then, where it's like he might not quite make it, and Playboy Carti, where it's like he might not be quite big enough. The Weeknd, whew,
100%.
He's got enough of a back catalogue and enough bangers that he could headline, you know, do a 90-minute show and it'd be fucking good.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest artists in the world at the minute. I also love the choices underneath there. You've got the Prodigy and Don Broco, who both massive. I think maybe you could split them apart on days, because I think they're both big enough to maybe be... Is Don Broco big enough, or is it just because I'm a fan?
I think it's just because you're a fan. Like, they are big, but I don't think they're big enough to headline like a second stage. I just don't think...
No, I was more thinking like, could they be on just before The Weeknd?
I don't see that, no. But the thing that I'm surprised at is that the Prodigy are before The Weeknd. I really feel like if the Prodigy were going to be on, they'd be on a different day. They'd maybe be on the day with, the next day that we'll discuss. And I also feel like the Prodigy might be big enough to headline second. I know they're not in the current...
one of the main guys die as well? They're not... The Prodigy. I swear one of the main singers died.
Possibly.
I think so. But yeah, I don't know if they're big enough. I know last time they did Leeds Arena, they didn't sell it out. Admittedly, I think the Prodigy are more one of those where people want to be standing as well. So maybe Leeds Arena isn't ideal for that because there's not as much standing capacity.
Yeah.
But I personally don't think they're big enough to headline one of the stages, but I could see it, and I don't think people would be too upset about it.
I don't know if the Prodigy have headlined before, but they are Reading and Leeds. Like, they've been to Reading and Leeds so many times. Like, in the early 2000s, they were just constantly there. So I can see them. Personally, I feel like they could headline second stage, but I can understand why perhaps nowadays they haven't got quite the pull that they once had. But, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. And then we've got Sam Fender as the other headliner on that day. He's obviously big enough at this point, and I personally think that he probably won't headline Reading and Leeds next year because he's just announced 2 dates at St James's Park, the Newcastle Stadium. So that's all in all probably over 100,000 people right there that are already going to be buying tickets to see him. I'm not ruling it out because I could see him doing it, but generally when bands have one of those like big gigs already in the UK, they won't do the headline as well. But I do think that if he doesn't headline 2023, then he's nailed on for 2024, like definitely. 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, and I think having the Blossoms follow before Sam Fender, that's a perfect pairing right there.
I'm sick of Blossoms,
but
mate.
I was gonna say, I was about to say that myself. I was like, what have Blossoms done?
No, Blossoms have a massive following. Like they're actually one of the biggest indie bands in the country, but I've just seen them so many times now.
Do you think they're just everywhere, aren't
yeah,
they?
they did Reading and Leeds like 2 years in a row. I've seen them at Tramlines. I've seen them support the Killers. I feel like they are everywhere because I mean I wouldn't say they're overrated. I think that it's more of like a very indie taste, and obviously I can cross genres a little bit, and they're not like 100% for me. But I think that they would fit the bill there if it was them and Fender.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they can definitely position there.
And there's some great people underneath there as well. So you've got Don Brocco as one of the people underneath the weekend, and then I can see Turnstile and Neck Deep and Boston Manor as some of the smaller artists on that day, which again I think makes sense because if anyone was going to buy a day ticket that's into that genre of music, that'd probably make it enough artists to go see.
It'll be perfect for them, but I'm a little bit surprised they've not pegged Neck Deep higher up than they are. I feel like they're a bigger band than just being that low down. But again,
Neck Deep are definitely main stage. They have the last 2 times they've done Reading and Leeds, but I just guess it's whoever did this poster put them a little. Same with Turnstile, they're definitely big enough to main stage now as well.
Can I see Ghosty Main there?
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, I think he'd be an interesting one to see. I've only listened to a couple of songs and I enjoyed him, but I think he'd be an interesting act to catch if he was at Reading and Leeds.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to the last day of this Reading and Leeds poster, you've got Muse as one of the headliners.
So I would love to see that, don't get me wrong, but I don't see it happening because they have their tour planned. Like you're saying with Sam Fender, they're doing a lot of big shows. They're only doing like 4 or 5 in
Still
total.
Stadium gigs though,
If they're doing like I tend to find that if a band's doing a massive tour that spans over like 2 months, they usually do fit in festivals. Whereas if they're doing, 4 or 5 specific shows, they often only do those that year, and then they're just not heard of for another year after that. So I think it'd be interesting to see if they would turn up. But for Have Nothing But Thieves coming up beneath them,
they are pretty big. Nothing But Thieves.
They are, but I don't know if they're worthy of being that high up on the bill personally. But again, this is all.
I think the difference in Leeds Fest now, because there's 2 main stages, I think bands like that can take a bit of a higher spot because there's going to be probably a similar level band on the other main stage as well, so it kind of makes up for it a little bit.
Yeah.
I do think that they're probably, you could maybe switch them and Architects round.
Yes.
Because Architects are like very big with a particular core audience. So I think that either of those could fill those spots. And to be honest, I quite like both bands, so I'd take both of those there.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But like you say, swap them around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that would make sense. And it'd also make more sense for Architects to be on before Muse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that would have more of a crossover in terms of... But I, again, like you said, I don't think Muse will really do it, given the large stadium tours. And then you've got Doja Cat as the last headliner. One I could definitely see, to be honest. I don't really know too much about Doja Cat. I know she's a really big artist, and of course Reading and Leeds is always going to push some of the female headliners, which is nice to see. But... I'm guessing she's big enough. I don't really know enough to comment.
I'm gonna put her on a peg with the same level as like Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah,
in the same. Yeah, exactly. So they are definitely worthy of doing that 100%.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's good to see the diversity that they're bringing. So I'd be happy to see her there
for sure. And I know Bicep, they're more electronic music, and to be honest, given Creamfields is on the same weekend, I could probably see them doing Creamfields over Reading and Leeds. I mean, there's nothing to stop them doing both, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But I could certainly see them fitting in there more. And I don't know if they're big enough to be like sub under a headliner.
Yeah, I did think that when I saw it. But again, what we've got to keep in mind is that these are fan-made posters.
Yeah.
So, they might just be a massive Bicep fan.
Of course. And then under there, on some of the smaller artists, the only one that I really know on there is Example. I know Holding Absence a little bit. Example is actually the artist that I've seen, I think, most in my life live.
Really?
Yeah, so when I was younger, one of the first gigs I went to was Example at Millennium Square when I was like 11 or 12. And then I've seen him at like Academy and at a festival, and then at Academy again. So I've seen him a fair few times. I love Example. There was an album called Playing in the Shadows, the one with like Change the Way You Kiss Me and stuff on. That was my bop back when I was younger. I absolutely love that. And I know that he's done a good job of keeping his stuff refreshed as well. Like he doesn't just rely on the old tunes. He's done a lot of like more modern like house and D&B tracks and stuff. So
hasn't he done? He's done quite a few. Well, he's done a lot of collaborations as well, hasn't he? So he'll have a lot of big hits with current artists as well. So it's Yeah,
Could see example there for sure.
I can't again, but example like I just feel like he should be higher up again. But again,
I know, I don't think he should be now. I think he'd be one of those that'd probably be maybe like sub-headlining or headlining like the dance stage.
Yes,
But
yeah, definitely.
like I don't know if he'd do main stage.
True.
I think his vibe now is more the dance stage. That's where I could see him for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. That was a clip from the Man Overboard podcast.
And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to click on the links down below because we're on every streaming service and that's where you can find full episodes.
Peace.